Hi, I'm Mary Kopczynski, the CEO of Regulators, live at Haven, a new co-working location in Connecticut, where I'll be meeting with the newly formed Tidal River Angel Investment Group focused on female-led companies. Here's your update on this week's 22,265 regulatory alerts. The regulator of the week is the U.S. House of Representatives. As you know, I've reviewed the world's regulatory alerts every single week for 3 years straight. And because of it, it takes a lot to move the needle on my interest-o-meter. And given that there are 200,000 U.S. bills proposed on average every year, 25% of which pass, it's rare that I care about proposed bills unless it's a clear trend. And this week, the U.S. House of Representatives caught my eye with 4 proposed bills. The first is a Real Privacy Act, which would establish an agency to be known as the Digital Privacy Agency, which would then enforce whatever privacy rights were passed. We'll see if that works. And then the topic of the week is weed. And of course, the U.S. House introduced 3 bills. 1, grants for states to help cover the costs of expunging convictions for cannabis expenses. 2, an act to allow veterans to use, possess, or transport medical marijuana, and to discuss the use of medical marijuana with a physician at the Department of Veterans Affairs. 3, an act to protect the Second Amendment rights of adults whose use of marijuana is permitted by state or tribal law. On to other news. The Abu Dhabi Global Market, which is the international financial center in Abu Dhabi, is pleased to welcome Kraken to its fast-growing virtual asset community and financial ecosystem. I suspect we will see more of these announcements as the U.S. hostility towards crypto continues. Another interesting state bill proposal comes from Rhode Island, which would authorize its Office of Attorney General to pass rules about generative artificial intelligence models like ChatGPT in order to protect the public's safety, privacy, and intellectual property rights. Friends, I smell a multi-state TikTok-style ban coming to ChatGPT and OpenAI soon. Until this regulatory environment is more settled, I'd be careful about investing too heavily in early uses of these products. The CFA Institute, which is the Global Association of Investment Professionals, has published a new handbook of artificial intelligence and big data applications in investments. The PCAOB, which is the Public Company Accounting Oversight Board, outlined its exam priorities for 2023, and no surprise, digital assets and SPACs are on their list. Speaking of exams, eye exams. I've mentioned that the new rule came out that you should be getting your eyeglass prescription right away and not need to order glasses or contacts. Well, the FTC issued 37 cease and desist letters to prescribers last week alone based on the complaints that they were receiving. For those of you still watching with eager eyes the fallout of SVB and Signature, the FDIC estimates that the failures resulted in losses of approximately $22.5 billion, most of which will indeed result in a special assessment on banks. Additionally, new GAAP rules have come out from FASB in relation to credit losses and troubled debt restructuring. And the OCC, the Fed, the FDIC, and the NCUA are implementing this in a revised interagency policy. For those of you watching the whole non-compete arena, 18 state attorney generals have written a letter giving a thumbs up to the proposed FTC rule. On to climate, the White House is working on a dialogue about rights versus privileges. Example being that you have the privilege of driving if you get a driver's license and don't lose the license. But a right, like freedom of speech, is inherent. You don't need to get permission to speak. You speak, and unless it causes serious harm, you have the right to say whatever you want. Well, the new right is the right to breathe clean air, drink clean water, and live in a healthy community. This is not something you should have to pay or something you have to qualify for. You should just have it. To that end, President Biden signed an executive order for the federal agencies to show measurable progress in pursuing these ends for the American people. Similarly, the European Central Bank And the European Insurance and Occupational Pensions Authority, also known as EIOPA, published a paper on how to better insure households and businesses against climate-related natural catastrophes such as floods or wildfires. And last but not least, the SEC took out some winos. Their big plan was to raise capital from investors to buy fancy wine and then sell it as it aged. And the SEC found this to be an unregistered offering. That's it this week for Regalytics. Wish me luck on my pitch, and if any of you are interested in getting involved with Regalytics, call me right away. Join me every Wednesday for your dose of regulatory news.